Hello, my cookie crumbs. My hiatus is almost over, but I really wanted to get this video out. But for some reason, the universe just doesn't want me making this video. I'm not sure why that is, but it's happening. So, 5th time is the charm. So we're talking about My Hero Academia. I wanted to have an open discussion with you guys. I wanted to share my thoughts, my feelings, and maybe a few theories. I'm going to be breaking this down into parts, so not to get overwhelmed because I haven't done this in a few months and I don't want to overwhelm myself. So, here we go. In the barest of nutshells, My Hero is about a young protagonist who wants to become a hero. He goes through absolute hell and ends up becoming a hero at the end. Also, spoilers. I forgot to mention spoilers. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but if you have not finished the manga and you really want to, or if you're waiting for the anime to finish, then I suggest you skip this video for now. Sound good? Alright. For those who are skipping the videos, I will see you after Halloween, or I will see you around Christmas time. Let's continue. So my initial thoughts are that it's a well-written manga. Like Demon Slayer, they really knew what they were going for, and they had such amazing characters and backgrounds. But like every story, it has its flaws. The perfect story does not exist, and it never will. If it did, us writers would be pretty much out of the job. So, what are its flaws? Well, number one, I really would have loved to see more of Izuku's mental state. What do I mean by that? Well, we know that Izuku at best was neglected and abused at worst. So I really wanted the creator to explore more of his mental health. We didn't get that. He mostly just brushed off years upon years worth of garbage placed onto him like it was nothing. He remained pure-hearted and a good character, sure, but sometimes that doesn't work well. For Izuku, it didn't. An example is when you get to the later chapters, you start to see, especially when it comes to the Vigilante arc, you start to see his mental health slip just a little bit. I would have loved to have seen this more in the earlier chapters, in the earlier stages. You know, like, how did the abuse, the bullying, and the neglect affect him really? We don't really see that, and that's a dang shame because I would have loved to have seen more of that. Especially when one is transitioning from middle school to high school. This is the period when you're starting to really explore your self-worth, your identity, and everything else. What crowds you fit into, what you really like, what your interests and your hobbies truly are. That is such an awkward time for a lot of teens to be in. So I really wish we would have gotten more of that side. I also really wish we would have seen Bakugo got his comeuppance. I've read so many fanfics where Bakugo just gets a slap on the wrist, he's still in the hero course, and everything is hunky-dory. He gets therapy and everything's a-okay. But that punishment does not fit his crimes, and I really wish we could have seen, just a lot more of his punishments. Or we could have seen some punishment and it just escalates, I wanted Bakugo to receive punishment for his crimes, but that never happened. He basically got away with almost killing one of his best friends. It doesn't matter if Izuku was a former best friend, if he was a current best friend. It does not matter. I really, really wish that the writer just would have given him a punishment. Even the writer himself came out saying, I regret the way I wrote Bakugo. He's not a good character. If I could go back in time and rewrite him, I would have done better by him. And I agree with that sentiment. Bakugo is not a well-written character. In fact, you know he's not well-written when fans of that character just ignore his abuse. They blatantly say, oh, he was in the right this whole time. Or, he didn't mean it. He was just a child. He didn't know any better. Which, that's garbage. He knew better. He just didn't want to show weakness. Bakugo also kept, saying he was the best. He was going to be a hero. He couldn't have his record stained, otherwise he would never become a hero. And that's why he was never given a punishment. And any punishment he would have been given just doesn't fit his crimes. Which is why I like fanfics in which Bakugo does get a punishment that does fit his crimes. And I would have loved to have seen that. And sure, maybe Bakugo could have appeared later on as a redeemed hero, I would have also liked to have seen a little more backstory on some other characters. We don't have to see backstories for every character, but just for the main cast. I know that was a lot of characters, which, it is a school story, so you have to have a lot of characters, but it's difficult to maintain all those characters. You really got to know the ins and outs of every character. You can't just throw a character into your story, call it a day. You got to know that character from the inside outward, no matter what kind of character it is. Background, main, doesn't matter. I would love to have seen a little bit more on some of these characters. It would have been interesting, to say the least. Another flaw is Inko was neglectful at best. Who's Inko? Inko Midoriya is Izuku Midoriya's mother. And I think she was another one of those poorly written characters. There is no way she didn't know that her child was being heavily bullied or even abused. And that's the other thing. I would have loved to have seen her fight for her child, tooth and nail, like a real mother would. However, that didn't happen. She just basically ignored her. And I know some of you will come back and say, well, what could she have done? What could she have done differently to protect her child? Well, here's the thing. She could have done a lot to protect her child. There is no ends to what a mother will go to in order to protect her children. So, Inko could have done a lot. Even though there are laws that may have worked against her, every law has a loophole, and she could have exploited that loophole. Especially in a lot of fanfics where it states that she's a lawyer or some kind of paralegal. She definitely would know the law inside and out. So she could have found that loophole and she could have just went for it. But she didn't. And that's really sad. I would have loved to have seen the creator just have her fight tooth and nail for Izuku, but that doesn't happen either. Another flaw that I absolutely hate is how Izuku keeps a slur. That's right, Deku is a slur for his hero name. That's not a good hero name, and you will never see me or hear me call him Deku. Ever. It is a slur, and you cannot own a slur. You cannot take a slur and make it mean a good thing. My pride here on YouTube is a prime example. Nothing is essentially a slur. She tried to make the creator and essentially nothing tried to make the slur work, and she tried to own it. It did not work. It failed miserably, and it does so in My Hero. People don't really think about this, but having a hero being called useless, it's just going to not be a good time. But Ochako changed the meaning, I hear you cry. Well, sure, but you also have to remember this is a different language. This isn't English. Yes, the English language is always changing and constantly changing its rules, but this is Japanese. You have to factor in that sometimes the Japanese language does not change and meanings don't change. Remember, it's a whole other language. They may not play by the same rules as English. And I really would have loved to have seen Izuku give the middle finger to Bakugo and pick a hero name that better suited him. That's why I always give Izuku more than one hero name in every story. And in different stories, his hero name changes. Why is this? Because Izuku is exploring a name that best fits him. And when he finds that perfect name, he takes it and he runs with it. I've seen fanfics do this too, and it always makes me smile. But you will never hear me call Izuku Deku in my stories, ever. I refuse to call him a slur. The other flaw are the villains. Yeah, they're great and they're pretty well written, but nobody's going to reach Sephiroth level. Sephiroth is a beautifully written villain. Beautiful. The creator and the writer for Final Fantasy VII did an amazing job at writing Sephiroth. But that's a different video for a whole different day. And maybe a video that I will do on my main channel if you guys want to check out my main channel. My main channel is called Emily Rose. I'm sure you'll find me eventually. But the villains kind of lacked. I can't really pinpoint down to just one thing, and I can't pinpoint down to just one flaw. These are the things that you'll have to explore for yourself. But what I can tell you is that some of these villains just did not work for the story. Not to say that they were poorly written, just that the idea of them didn't fit. They could have fit a little bit better in another story. Now, what do I like about My Hero Academia now that I'm done complaining about its flaws? I really enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed watching these characters grow into their powers and seeing them use their powers for the greater good. Not only that, I enjoyed just watching them struggle. Not struggle as in like, oh man, they're going to fail. I mean struggle as in like, yeah, these are kids. They're in high school. High school kids struggle because that's that awkward time for them where they're exploring everything. And I really, really wish we could have seen more of the academia side of things. You know, like, how is high school life for these high schoolers? How much are they struggling? Do some of them like math? Do they like science? Do they absolutely hate math and science? I really wish we would have seen more of the academia side too. I get it, it's a hero school, but they still learn other things such as math, science, reading, and a whole other stuff. I'm pretty sure Present Mike, because there is a theory that he's deaf, I'm pretty sure Present Mike would have taught not just English, but would have taught sign language. And that's something I really wanted to be explored. That would have been an amazing concept. But what do I really like about My Hero other than the story being beautifully written? Well, I like the characters. Yeah, some of them could have used more development, some of them could have used a little less development, and some of them could have just been rewritten entirely. But overall, they're not bad characters, and I couldn't have done any better myself. Well, I mean, I could have, but I'm not much of a manga writer. I actually tried to write my own manga when I was a little bit younger, and it just kind of flopped, so maybe in the future I'll give it another try. But I just don't have the time, nor do I have really the equipment to sit down and draw a whole manga. And again, that's a future project. But I love the story, I love the concept, and I loved everything about it. Yeah, the story has flaws, but what story doesn't? And that's where I'm going to leave this video, or this part, off of now. Sorry for being so tongue-tied. Goodness me. Also, sorry for the background noise. We moved studios. We are no longer in the lot. We are in a parking deck. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. Anyways, guys, I will have the next couple parts of this video up, and then I will be right back after my hiatus. I wanted to start an open discussion with you guys now that the manga is finished, and I really just wanted to see what your takes were, what your theories are, and everything. If you haven't finished the manga or even the anime and you would like to, like I said, feel free to skip this video, and I will see you when my hiatus is over. Bye, guys!